Welcome to Grad School Life by PhD Balance, a new mini segment of Grad Chat where we speak to graduate students about the behind the scenes, day-to-day life in their programs. I'm your host, Courtney Applewhite, on the road doing some field work. So this episode is brought to you by Motel Art. And my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm a PhD candidate in the Department of Religious Studies at the University of California, Santa Barbara, studying death. So please don't forget to like and subscribe on your chosen platform to get notifications about new episodes. And if you have time, leave us a 5-star review. This helps people find the show, particularly potential grad students, which is who we're hoping to reach with this. Today, I'm joined by Ali Massa. Ali is a fourth-year PhD candidate and innovation fellow in cancer biology at Dartmouth's Guarini School of Graduate Arts and Sciences. Her research is focused around endogenous retroviruses and how their expression impacts the immune system in health and disease. Prior to Dartmouth, she worked in Boston at the Ragon Institute of MGH, MIT, and Harvard, and then in an immuno-oncology startup. Neon Therapeutics. It's now BioNTech US. In addition to her PhD, she works as a venture fellow at an early stage healthcare investment firm, Borealis Ventures, and participated in Dartmouth's Innovations Accelerator for Cancer and served on Dartmouth's Entrepreneurship Leadership Board. So Ali's busy. In her free time, she loves to snowboard and volunteer at a local animal shelter. She's a big animal lover, and her long-term goal is to open a nonprofit animal sanctuary. And I'm very excited to talk about that because my long-term goal is to open a farm of miniature creatures. That's what I would like to do.
I love it. Lab.
That's great. Right. That'll be great. But welcome, Ali. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Courtney. It's great to be here.
So, man, I could do an entire episode on our future joint venture of opening an animal sanctuary and miniature farm of miniatures. But we'll do a grad chat episode just solely dedicated to that future endeavor. But to start off with, we like to ask everyone, what is something you do on a daily basis that gives your PhD life balance?
Yeah, so that kind of comes with the season. So I think daily right now, I mean, I'm up in New Hampshire and we get maybe 1 month of nice sun, warm weather. And so now that it's so nice out, getting outside every day, going for a walk. I try to do that, during the day, during lab, if I just need a mental break away from my computer, or after work, I'm always trying to just get outside, get in the sun. It's so important for me and my mental health personally. So yeah, that's kind of something that I do on the day-to-day. But I guess kind of more on the professional end of that. So, I'm a PhD candidate, I'm doing cancer biology research, but I'm also really involved in Dartmouth's entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so I'm pretty active in a lot of other various projects that might not be lab-based, but more about, biotech innovation, commercializing, research findings, that sort of thing. So that's also kind of a way that I balance my brain from sort of the heavy technical science on a day-to-day.
Yeah, I find that to be a great method that I think is underrated in grad school is this idea that you can have other interests and pursue other kinds of options outside of the science or outside of the reading or the humanities work that you're doing. And I also find that it helps just give your brain kind of a break. It helps to shift gears, and it's still in this era of everything needs to be productive. It's still productive, right? It's still useful. It's still contributing. But
yeah, I found that it's added a lot also to just the way that I think about my science and my research, my experiments, and vice versa, really trying to figure out what's going to be, the home run experiment here. What data do I really need to kind of confirm this particular aspect of my dissertation work, really getting clear on the experiments I need to do and how to streamline that. So it's been helpful. So yeah, I enjoy it.
That's great. I think that's really useful. And so if you go back to when you were deciding to apply to grad school, why did you decide to apply, and what did you think it would be like when you were in the application process?
Yeah, so I always knew I was going to go and get some graduate degree. I was pre-med in undergrad. And then for a while, I was thinking of MD PhD because I had a lab experience where I was getting, basic biology research. And I thought that was really cool and fun. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll do an MD PhD. And then, I kind of pivoted a bit and worked in more of industry at a biotech, and I really fell in love with kind of strategy and technology development, commercialization, how to bring kind of sort of basic nascent biology to kind of the market and to patients. So I got really interested in that. And then I was thinking about how that would then fit into a graduate school career. And I thought eventually just doing, the PhD would be kind of a good fit for me and what I want to do. When I came into my program, I sort of was thinking that I would want to go directly into venture capital. And so basically building out early stage biotechs. And if you look at some of the, big life science firms in Boston, which is where I'm from, all of the associates there, the principals, they all have PhDs, they all have MDs, really heavy technical expertise, operating experience, that sort of thing. So I was like, okay, I need to go and get the degree finally. So now I'm here.
Yeah. And so you had those experiences in undergrad. Did you have expectations about the experience of grad school? Did you have senses of that?
Yeah. So when I was first kind of starting out, during college, right after college, and I was working in research, I had heard from a lot of people, and I'd worked with a lot of, people that held PhDs, and, PhD school can be a grind. It's, really difficult. And then as I continued kind of working, I was fortunate in some aspects. I had really great mentors who were telling me, Allie, you're going to be great in grad school. You have all this research experience, you know how to run experiments and that sort of thing. So I kind of came in thinking that, oh, okay, I think I'll be okay. I can handle grad school. I have all this great working experience. But it turns out that grad school is tough, no matter if you're coming straight in from college or if you're like me and I had, years of work experience and working in research labs with, various types of people. It's still been tough for me. So yeah, I guess coming in, I sort of thought maybe it would be a little bit easier, but academia has its, own hurdles, as most positions do, most places do. But it's been tough. It can be hard to kind of have all the sort of independent study, free time. My PI is wonderful, a wonderful mentor, and gives me a lot of autonomy. And so because I don't have as much structure day to day, like these are the specific deliverables. It's not like I'm taking a ton of classes where I have assignments due every day. It can be tough to kind of figure out, okay, how do I use my time most productively and in a way that kind of moves the needle forward. But yeah, I'm still figuring that out. So
Totally. I mean, it's an ongoing process, and the PhD changes over time, right? Like the expectations. So as you said, right now you're a PhD candidate, which is a different place than a first year, for example.
exactly. Yeah, for sure.
And so what does your day-to-day at this point actually look like?
Yeah, so right now, I'm actually, I'm still taking one class currently, and that's sort of my capstone class for this innovation program that I'm a part of, where I'm essentially building out my own startup around my dissertation research. And so that's taking quite a bit of time, understandably, which is, really fun too. But I do have that class that I, kind of have to prepare for each week. But apart from that, typically a day, I try to wake up early. Now that the sun's rising earlier, I like to rise with the sun, so 5:36. That's not always the case. Sometimes I'm up super late working and then I need to sleep in. So, I'm flexible with that, but I try to wake up early. I'll usually try to do some of my PhD data analysis in the morning. Right now I'm trying to put out my first author manuscript. And so kind of wrapping up figures for that, putting that, those methods together, doing that write-up. That's what I'll do in the mornings. And then I'll usually, we have research seminars here. I work at the hospital, and there's always, faculty seminars or student seminars from students in my program, in my cohort, which I'll attend. And then typically in the afternoon, I'll try to, get back to some of that classwork, that, startup or some other projects that I'm involved in with some of the other things that I do outside of lab. And then, yeah, that's kind of a typical day.
Yeah. And then as you get into the evening time, do you typically work in the evening, or is that time that you set aside for yourself?
Yeah, it depends. I think right now, this last year, and maybe some other, students listening, if they're in their fourth year, they can attest to this. It's kind of in fourth year can be a little bit intense. There's a lot going on. And so I do work in the evenings, most evenings. But again, it's usually those kind of extraneous projects that I'm involved in. I'm a mentor, a research mentor at an organization called Polygens, where we basically mentor high school students that, in our case, are interested in STEM. And so I work with them. And so sometimes in the evenings, I'll take calls for that. I interview potential new mentors, that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm typically working in the evenings or going to campus and attending events that I think sound fun. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that again, what we were talking about before, the diversity of tasks sort of makes it a little bit more manageable too, right? You're not at the bench for 10 hours a day, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it can be a blessing and a curse. It is nice because I can kind of use different parts of my brain, but then it also can be a bit difficult to pivot and juggle all those different things at once, and kind of trying to maintain, my primary focus being getting my PhD. And so doing things that are going to help support that, but also being aware that, I have all these other interests that are related to my career and my career development. And so wanting to partake in those as well. And, giving myself the opportunity to do so. That's what, graduate school, we're very fortunate. We can learn, we can, network with people, learn from others, and hear about their career paths and kind of how we might want to maybe implement some of those things in our own. So I'm taking that opportunity now, during grad school to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important step that you can take towards your career, because I think sometimes in grad school people think that the whole point is to just get the degree, when the degree is just a very small part of what your career is going to end up being. Even if you're going into academia, like, you're going to be expected to serve on committees, you're going to be expected to perhaps do more admin stuff. Like, you have to be versatile in almost everything that you're going to do next. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Really developing those soft skills, so to speak.
mhm. And with the benefits of the university at your disposal, right? Like, so you
Yeah.
have access to all this amazing information and talks and professors and sort of stuff like that. So using all of those resources, which it sounds like you're doing just so effectively. So I think that that's awesome.
Trying.
Yeah.
Thanks. Trying to. Yeah.
And so you've walked us through a typical day. Do you have days that just really don't look like that at all? What's a not so typical day for you?
I think, maybe this could be kind of gleaned from our chat here, but sometimes the days can feel a little bit busy and too busy. And so I definitely do have days where I get up and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I just can't today. Like, I just need to take a break. And sometimes maybe that means that I kind of focus on just one area that I think is, important, but maybe not as mentally taxing for that day. Some of the other projects that I'm doing, I'll kind of just focus on those if I can, get outside more, try to move my legs, go on walks, go for a run, to try to like just, get my heart pumping, to really help clear my head. Or maybe I'll just like read a book that I find to be particularly inspiring, and that might help to really, muster up some motivation to get some work done. But I try, not to be too hard on myself. I think ultimately, with graduate school, we're kind of in charge of, this experience is supposed to be for us and our career and our growth as scientists, as academics, or whatever people want to do with their degrees. And so really figuring out what works best for me, and giving yourself grace to kind of take some of those days where you're like, I just can't keep pushing today. And so I just need to take some time off for a little bit. That's okay too.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really important point, because the PhD, people always say this, it's sort of cliched, but it's a marathon, right? It's not a
Right.
sprint. And you
Yeah.
have to stop at the aid stations. Like, you have to take time for yourself, because we don't have built-in holidays the same way that other jobs do, right? Like,
Yeah.
no one, like, I never clock when it's a holiday. Like, I'm calling businesses on holidays and they're just like, we're closed for Memorial Day. And I'm like, it's Memorial Day?
I was just talking to my friend about that because a lot of my friends are in some of the master's degree granting programs here at Dartmouth, and they have spring break, and they're like, "Ow, like, come travel here for spring break." I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I was like, I still have, like, my class is still going through. I still am expected to be, in lab. It's really a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
Especially later on in the degree. So it's like, yeah, it's funny. We don't have the same.
But you have to build in those moments for yourself because, we don't have PTO, but like ultimately you still need breaks. So taking those days where it's just not clicking, it's no sense in pushing through. It's totally fine to do those recharging activities, which I think you've narrowed down really well, the things that give you life, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, okay, so beyond our joint venture where we're going to be opening this lovely animal sanctuary, what do you see yourself doing next?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I feel like it's so funny. You would think that it would be the opposite. When I came into my PhD, I thought, okay, this is what I think I want to do. I think I want to go into venture capital, healthcare investing, and the like. Now, as I've been doing that for several years, which has been fantastic to have that experience. And now I feel like as I'm more and more in it and, going through my PhD more, the less I feel like I know what I want to do, because there is so much flexibility and there are so many different career options. So right now, I'm still entertaining venture and going into VC, but I'm thinking of perhaps pivoting slightly from more healthcare focused investing into more food tech, ag tech, cellular agriculture, kind of in line with that, animal welfare bit that, I have just such a passion for. So trying to kind of bring my love and passion for animals into my ultimate career. And I think that might be, a good place for me to start out. So still venture, but the exact type of investing still to be determined.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. And I like that you sort of you're embracing a lot of the things that I really love about the PhD, which is that you're becoming an expert in your field. And as such, you really do have more flexibility and more say about what you want to do with your life than sometimes people feel. People feel very pigeonholed by their PhD sometimes. They're like, there's only certain jobs that I can do. But you are really the designer of your career.
Absolutely. And you can always use, a lot of the skills that I've learned, because I study cancer biology, cancer immunology, which is so fun. And I love my research topic, but, I can use a lot of those skills and apply it to any field for the most part. The kind of, it goes back to those soft skills that you develop during a PhD, the way to think critically, think critically about your science and other science. Those are skills that you have irrespective of your field of study. And so taking those and kind of applying them to an area that I'm also passionate about, and is sort of biotech related, but just more with animals.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this. Where can our listeners find you if they're interested in your work or interested in getting in touch?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, I'm Alexandra Massa, all three. I'm not super active on Instagram or Twitter necessarily, but I use Twitter more I kind of absorb, everyone else's tweets.
Right, doom scrolling.
But yeah, like happy to chat with others if, if they have any questions or similar interests. I love, connecting with people and learning about their work. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing a little bit about the day in your life.
Thanks so much, Courtney. It was great to be here.
Well, and thanks to everyone for joining us. This has been Grad School Life by PhD Balance. Episodes of Grad School Life are posted on Thursdays, and Grad Chat episodes are now posted Saturdays on our podcast and our YouTube channel. For more information about Grad School Life by PhD Balance, you can check out our website, phdbalance.com, or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PhD_balance. If you want to be a guest on Grad School Life, we are accepting people as guests. So you can check out the link tree on all of our social media platforms, and it has a form that you can fill out if you'd like to appear on Grad School Life. And you can find me at CFOWhiteX on Twitter and Instagram if you have any questions. Until next time, bye y'all, and take care of yourselves.